Thank you for listening and supporting the Daily Memphian. Sign up for one of our many free newsletters and breaking news alerts at dailymemphian.com/email to receive the latest local news stories impacting our community. Our weekly newsletters cover everything from sports to arts and culture, business, food, and more, along with daily updates of all the news we publish each day. Sign up or manage your email preferences at dailymemphian.com/email.
I'm Bill Drees with the Daily Memphian, joined today by Robert Connect, Memphis Public Works Division Director, and this is On the Record. We record this Wednesday, January 11th, 2023, and we're here to talk about potholes. Robert, you told Memphis City Council members yesterday that the city has hired a company to do a pavement condition assessment for the city. I guess you would call it, for lack of a better term for it. Who is the company, and tell me what the city is getting for its $500,000 here.
So we've hired a company called Roadway Asset Services. They go by the acronym RAS. Mm-hmm. They're one of those entities and organizations that specialize in evaluating road network systems. And so what they are basically going to do is they have a specially outfitted vehicle, a van or similarly type vehicle that they use to drive. And they're going to make, I guess, based on the most information I got, they're going to make multiple passes up and down streets, probably at least 2 passes, and using their cameras / LiDAR, which is a form of radar, and other technology, they're going to capture imagery and data about the road surface in a very detailed manner. And they follow industry standards to basically, once they've completed a pass of a roadway, to rate that section of the roadway with what we call a PCI, a pavement condition index. So what we're ultimately going to have once they complete this entire assessment of all of our 6,714 lane miles is rating, a scorecard. Of only not only the whole city, which is really amazing, but also of each of those road sections that I managed. And with that information, we'll have the most comprehensive view we've ever had of our road network condition. Now, why is that important? We utilize this information to budget and pave for our paving. We try to establish a 25-year life cycle based on the condition of our streets. We have never had a whole comprehensive look before. We have done sections of the city at a time, but as you can imagine, that takes a lot of manpower resources. Our staff usually, when we get a complaint from a citizen about their road, go out, an engineer or someone who has the right expertise would look at it and rate it. And so, but that's not as efficient as we're talking about. So we've been doing that process over the last 20 years, as long as I've been here, and putting that information into our plan, our 5-year plan, so that we try to budget for the next coming fiscal year and the next 5 fiscal years, so that we can try to be as financially prepared or prepared to request the money needed to pave the streets. But again, it's been not on a holistic level. So this will help us for the first time ever, I think, gauge where we really are in time and look to what we should be looking for a request or a better plan to pave all those streets that I mentioned that we identified that are in poor condition, for making that kind of best case, best practice plan for using those capital budget dollars. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And I think you talked about a 45-day window for them to do the mapping on this. Are they out there now doing it, or?
Well, I was a little off. They told me this. I was expecting them only have to make 1 pass. I wasn't realizing they're gonna have to drive up and down the streets twice. So that's gonna make it longer. They're telling me it's probably gonna take 90 days just to drive all the city streets. So, right. So when I will come back to council in 90 days to they can give an update and kind of where they are preliminarily, maybe, but have to come back again later with the final plan, with the final outcomes. Yeah, they are getting started. I believe no, they're not out now. The vehicle should be here, I think, next week. The issue they're facing is weather. They can't do this work when it's hazardous weather or when it's raining. So I think this last round of inclement weather kind of caused some concern. So they're kind of making sure that when they assign their crew, their vehicle and their staff, they're going to be able to get the productivity out that we all want. So I think we're okay, but we're just wanted to make sure.
Right, right. And after they get that data, which is a whole lot of data, then they proceed to analyze it and I guess put it on a map and so that you can look at it and make your plans accordingly in the cycle on this.
Yeah, the capturing the data is the one part, but the analyzing it is another big section of that work. Exactly right. And then they'll give us a report back that, as you mentioned, and we're going to be able to leverage other things in the future because they're taking a video of all those same miles, that in the future we can potentially have them analyze our street signs, traffic signs. We can ask them to analyze our manholes and other infrastructure because they'll have the data. But right now they're focusing just on the asphalt pavement condition.
Mm-hmm. You keep a lot of numbers in your head and at your fingertips because the council and citizens in general are always ready to talk about potholes. So give me an idea of why potholes and repaving are such a challenge in Memphis that people might not think it would be in a city that has a population of under 1 million people. We have under 1 million people, but we have a lot of lane miles in this city, don't we?
Yeah, in terms of geographic area, we are a larger city. 324 square miles is the size, and that's a large city. If you compare us to like Baltimore, which has a very similar population, they have, I think, 40 square miles in that same population. So we have a large area to serve in that same population. So that density is what we've been kind of honing in on. You heard this talk by our administration to kind of, when we de-annex, we're trying to shrink our footpack back to more manageable size. So by having a large area, we also have a pretty significant amount of street networking. So the total lane miles estimated, as I've said, was 6,714 total lane miles. What does that mean? That means that we have, if you were to take our road network and string it out, all across the U.S., you could go back and forth across the continental U.S. twice. You go to from New York to California and back. So that's a lot. And so it's gives it a scale of what we deal with. So I think that's something that's hard to kind of fathom until you kind of put it in that kind of context. Our road network is a little smaller than what the city of Los Angeles has. They have, I think, 7,600 lane miles. So when you're talking about a population of 8 million, 9 million people. So our population density and our size are one of the things that complicate our ability to manage our road network. And if you could factor in the fact that we have to, maintain it as well, like you said, like we're talking about potholes, that's a lot of work to go. We put it in every day. I mean, we have crews who just drive up and down streets all the time, year round, every day, as long as it's not raining or it's not inclement weather, fixing potholes. So as I told council, only about 20% of the potholes we actually fill are the ones that get reported. The vast majority, about 80% of those, are just our proactive work towards potholes. And that helps us as well because the city does have its own asphalt plant, which is very rare. That helps us, be more efficient with the dollars we get. And it gives us the ability to get hot mix asphalt more readily, more year round. We're not relying on a contractor to get it.
Right. And when you talk about citizens reporting this, that's through 311, or they might reach out to a council member who then reaches out to you. So, but most of your reports of potholes come from city employees who are out there doing their jobs, which might involve some other things, but they note that along the way. Sometime back, related to that, Public Works, I think, had a plan to outfit cars and trucks in the city fleet with technology that sounds like it would do maybe some of this kind of scanning of streets as those driving the vehicles were making their ordinary rounds, and that's still on the drawing board, as I understand it, right?
Yeah, and just to clarify the last point, no, we have 4 pothole crews almost every day just doing
Okay.
potholes. So it's not people out doing just doing other things and doing potholes. These are staff who are carrying around hot asphalt in the back of their truck, fixing potholes that they come across. Whether it's when it's reported, they get dispatched to take care of it. But in the process of being dispatched and when they're not being dispatched, they're assigned areas of the city just to fix potholes.
Okay.
Yeah, so we were very fortunate a couple years ago to leverage a partnership with Google Cloud. And through that partnership with Google Cloud, they were very active and very interested, I'm sorry, in forming a partnership with the city to create what we call machine learning tools through what we call AI, artificial intelligence. So because they are kind of obviously leaders in this, they were looking at ways to harness their computing power and through AI and through machine learning towards through through positive programs that affect people's lives. So what we said to them is, okay, look, potholes. We need to know. We want to try to find where potholes are without having to report them. What can we do to do that? Well, they say, well, like we use cameras on vehicles and train them the camera, the information that comes from the camera to go through the model and generate a pothole report. So we started out with Matabuses. Matabuses had forward-facing cameras, and we tried that, and the technology works, but the quality of the camera wasn't there. So we kind of went back to the drawing board with Google Cloud and Spring ML, their partner, and said, okay, what would work better? So we said, okay, we need to put these types of cameras. So we identified the right type of camera and the right angle and stuff that would work well to capture that image. And then we outfitted several public works vehicles. We outfitted a street sweeper. And the reason we talked about street sweepers because they are pretty commonly going down city streets. Now, not like solid waste vehicles, but there's so many solid waste vehicles that it's kind of costly to outfit them with a camera. So the street sweepers were our second best option. So we evaluated them. And the other thing we did is we just allocated a city SUV that we have, and we're utilizing assigning people to that vehicle just to drive. I'm sorry. Let me get a drink here.
All right.
To drive city streets and run these cameras and run it through the model and then have the model generate the pothole reports. And that has been working pretty well. The street sweepers aren't ideal in some ways because when the street sweeper is running its equipment to actually to sweep the street, it generates dust sometimes and it vibrates, so it is not as clean of a picture as a dedicated SUV. So that's something that we're trying to decide if that's a best practice or not, or should we just outfit a couple SUVs and assign crews to just drive the streets and collect the data that way. But it has gone a long ways. The model is pretty much done. We are scheduled to have a follow-up conversation with the team, and I think we're ready to sign off on that one and put it become a full part of our complement of tools that we're going to utilize to help us. Is that anything different than what RAS is doing? I mean, not in the truest sense, but RAS is going to do the more detailed analytics. They're not going to use AI. The machine learning component of it is the unique thing that we're really excited about, that we can hopefully grow and add to our complement, because we're also going to use it for blight detection. That's the next phase. We're going to use the same cameras and technology to look at blighted property conditions.
Right. A final point. Did I hear this right in the council discussion that streets, paving, and potholes are a $6.5 million line item annually? Is that
for
right?
Public Works in our budget? Yeah, so there's a $21 million capital budget this fiscal year for paving. And a portion of that, because we pave city streets in-house, 6.5 million of that gets separated out and comes to Public Works street maintenance. The other 15.5 gets bid for contracted paving.
Okay. Right. Which goes to private companies. And you said that usually covers everything that you have planned for a fiscal year?
No, there's other funding I get.
Okay.
That covers a majority of that's a big piece of the street maintenance budget. We get other funding from the general fund that covers right-of-way cutting. We have to cut right-of-ways and pick up litter. So there are other things that we get funded but that is one big chunk of the funding and because the asphalt plant that I mentioned and the paving and those employees are paid for by that funding source.
Right. And for several years now, the city has made a distinction between city streets and state highways, which includes major thoroughfares like Union Avenue and like Poplar. Those are state highways. And the city and the state's agreement is that the city does not do those, that those are a state responsibility.
Yeah, they maintain them and they pave them. There's another 900 miles of state highways and interstates in our jurisdiction. So that gives you an idea how much the state has responsibility for.
Right, right. Okay, we have been talking with Robert Knecht, Director of the Memphis Public Works Division. I'm Bill Dries, and this has been On the Record.
In-depth journalism in the Memphis community, the Daily Memphian is of Memphis, not just in Memphis, and seeks to tell the stories of this city. TheDailyMemphian.com. Truth in place.